We are live and on time. Amazing. I'm actually 8 minutes early today. We'll hang around. It takes a little bit for everybody to get in. I thought I'd go a little live in case somebody was at lunch. They wanted to catch the update. So it looks like the notification just went out. So hopefully if some of you guys are on lunch hour, you're able to catch this. Hope the audio's good. Been messing with my audio a little bit, trying to get it dialed in. Got some updates on the boat project. It's going really well, actually. I thought I'd talk to you guys about something that happened yesterday. I almost blew that motor up. Made a really silly mistake, but I don't know, man. How's the lighting look? Looks a little dark, doesn't it? Might have to turn the light up a little bit. Maybe turn on this other light. We'll hang around. So if you've never been here before, this is Go Big. We teach automotive repair. We talk about automotive. We talk about hot rods, motorcycles, four-wheel drives, whatever we got going on. In the mornings, we usually jabber about automotive, but tonight I'm a 40-year mechanic, been doing this for a long time, and tonight I'm gonna teach an ignition system class. So basically, it'll be just like a beginner's ignition system. If you don't know nothing about automotive, this will be a good class for you. We're just going to walk through it one little step at a time, teach you what a coil is, how it works, how it gets cycled by the points, how to test it, how to use a voltmeter, and how to test things. So tonight at 7, I'm going to do like a classroom style ignition system. What's the best auto lift? Best auto lift. There's Westbin, probably. Westbin makes a pretty good lift. There's a bunch of different kind of lifts. Actually, the one I was looking at for my shop, they got some pop-ups. It depends on what you're doing, but they got some nice little pop-ups that aren't very expensive. And what a pop-up is, they lay flat on the floor, so they're pretty low like that. And you can drive up on them and you can lift. You can get the car about 24 to 30 inches off the ground with them. The nice thing about a pop-up, it doesn't tie up your bay with that big old lift all the time. So it makes it easy to be able to get your car in and not tie up the bay. So look at those pop-ups. They're kind of nice. I want them to put one in my bay at work because a regular lift gets in my way a little bit. Because when you want to swing the doors open and do electrical, a lift is just in your way. But those pop-ups are nice because you can drive over them and we don't need the lift. You don't even know it's there. And then when you need to lift it up, like you want to do a brake job or you want to get underneath there and inspect something, it'll lift the vehicle 30 inches off the ground at the Atlas 2 post. I'm not sure. We used Westbin, I think, and we've had really good luck with them. I'll see what the one I have at work and see. I'll get back to you on that. Real West, man. Have you been here before? I don't remember if you've been here before. I think you have one other time. Anyway, I want to just give everybody an update. If you've never been here before, I'm doing lives Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays now. Mondays, we're going to try to talk about motorcycles and see how that goes. I'm big into Harleys and been riding forever. And then on Tuesdays, I'm going to teach. So on Tuesday, yeah, I thought so, Real West, man. I'm sorry if I don't remember you. I try to remember everybody, but it's, when you get 60, it's hard to remember all that. I appreciate you coming back. On Tuesday, yeah, you know what, though? Check those drive-ons. It depends on what you're wanting to do. If you need to get something up high and change the transmission or something, you're going to need a bigger lift. I kind of like the asymmetrics are nice because you can still get the car up and get the door open, which is kind of nice. It's not in the way. Look at those asymmetrics. But let me know what you find. But those pop-ups are nice if all you're going to be doing is like brake work or you're going to be doing electrical. You're not changing motors and trannies and stuff. Anyway. So on Monday nights, we're going to be doing motorcycle only. Tuesday, we're going to teach. Tuesday is going to be Naruko 79, Welcome to Life. Tuesday nights is going to be teaching night. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've done some teaching, and I'm doing this for free. I'm not charging nobody nothing. You can come to the classroom. You didn't cost you anything. We'll do questions and answers. Tonight will be our first night. We're going to do ignition system, basic ignition operation. So on Tuesdays, we're going to do automotive training. And then on Fridays, what we've been doing, and it seems like it worked out okay, we're doing automotive trivia. And at the end of the trivia, somebody wins a free tool. So we have a random drawing. If you get a question right during the trivia, you get put on the board, and then you get a chance to win a free tool. Free of charge to you. It gets shipped to you free of charge. Don't cost you anything. It has to be within the United States, so I can't afford international shipping. So Friday nights, we do trivia, automotive trivia, and then we give away a free tool. Monday nights, we're going to do motorcycle talk only. We'll see how that goes because I really love talking about motorcycles. And then on Tuesdays, we're going to teach. So Tuesday nights, we're going to do teaching. If you've never been here before, if you don't mind, give us your subscription. Come see what it's all about. So I do lives usually 3 nights a week, or that's going to be the plan. And then, and we have a lot of projects going on. We just give everybody updates on the projects. So you guys have been here before. The boat project, the 63 Elgin project, I got it fired up yesterday. So I was able, and I'm going to walk. That's kind of why I was thinking about doing the ignition, because if you learn basic ignition, it doesn't matter what you're working on. Ignition is ignition. If it's a lawnmower, a car, a truck, a motorcycle, a boat, an airplane, ignition is ignition. So it really simplifies a lot of things. And a lot of times you can pick stuff up that just has no spark. I love finding cars with no spark because I know more than likely it's going to be something pretty easy to fix and something pretty cheap to fix. So anyway, we're going to walk through that. I made a really bad mistake yesterday. It almost cost me the motor on the boat. And see, boats are just different. There's so many different things about boats when you work on them. They're mechanical, but there's weird things about them. So like I was adjusting the throttle cable, and it had a big nut in what I thought was the throttle screw. And the cable was off, so I was trying to figure out how to set the cable up for the throttle. But that nut was the maximum RPM stop. So what happened was when I went to fire it, I had it full throttle. And that thing fired up, man, it went to full throttle, and I had to run up front and turn the key off. I thought I was going to launch that motor, but it held together. It didn't do no damage to it. But we were able to get spark and fuel to the Elgin, and it did start and run. But I got to get out there. I'm probably going to pull the carburetors off because it seemed like the idle, I just couldn't get the idle all the way down. So I got to play with that a little bit. And there's some lockouts on it. So like it doesn't want you to be able to start at full throttle like that. And so there's some lockouts. So I got to play with the linkage on it and get that all figured out. But it looks like the Elgin's going to run, $500, same situation like I was talking about with ignition. Once you learn ignition, like the boat, when I opened that boat up, even though I've never worked on one of those outboards before, I seen it had 2 coils. I'm like, okay, coil ignition, simple. I knew that it had a set of points. It had a condenser. It needs power to the coils to work. And then all it needs to give spark is it needs that grounding of the points. And I'll walk you guys through that tonight. But what I found on it, I'll show you a really good test for checking points if you're working on older stuff. Anything that has points in it, just take a test light. You hook it to the wire that goes into the points, no matter where they're located. Like on this one, you can't get to the points easily. It's underneath the flywheel. So it's a big process, not a real big process, but you got to pull the flywheel off. So I wanted to test those. And so what you can do is just take a test light, take the pointy part of the test light, hook it to the wire that goes into the points, take the end of the test light with the little clamp on it and put that on positive. So when you crank on a motor like that, that light should flash because every time it grounds, it's going to turn the light on. And if that light don't flash, it tells you that the coil's not being grounded. So it can't start. Without a ground being applied to the coil to build and collapse the magnetic field, I'll get right to you in a second here, Lucky. It won't start. And that's how you put a cheap kill switch on a point ignition. Just run a wire out to the negative side of the coil and put it on toggle. You flip the switch to ground, it won't start. What do you think about CVT transmissions? Are they even producing regular gear transmissions? There seems like every has switched to more unreliable CVT. That's the problem with the new technology. Pretty much everything now is not everything, but most vehicles are CVT, usually in your sedans. And, it's just a different, I haven't seen a lot of problems with them though. They don't fail any more than the other ones do. They just feel weird when you drive them because you're expecting it to shift, second, third, fourth. And that used to be a pretty common thing as a drivability guy. That's one of the first things you do. You go out and drive it and you look at the shift points. Where's the transmission shifting at? That was part of a test drive. And now they don't shift. They're kind of built like a snowmobile transmission. So they have coned gears on them. So the gear moves, and as the gear moves, the gear ratio changes. So it doesn't need to go first, second, third, fourth, fifth. But most of the trucks are still regular, shift transmissions with solenoids in them. Hey, Easy Money, how you doing, brother? I'm doing okay. I'm sorry I missed you guys yesterday. I got tied up on that boat, and I got to the point it was just getting ready to fire, and I was like, man, I got to hear this thing run today. Because I figured out I rewired the whole ignition on it because they had some horrible wiring on it. Nobody's fault. Just it wasn't really good connection. So I just went in and just cut all the wires off and started new, rewired it. And then it was getting close to time to do the live, and it was getting dark, and I wanted to, yeah, Lucky, you know what? Tonight we're going to go over that, man, in detail. If you don't know anything about ignition systems, tonight, and I hope you guys don't mind the whiteboard thing. I know whiteboard's kind of generic, but it'll work really good with this vertical live, and you won't see my ugly face much, which might be a good thing, I'm gonna put the camera right on the whiteboard, and I'm gonna walk you guys through ignition systems and teach you, what to expect, how to test the coil, what the points do, what you need to create spark, and why is that important. So anyway, we'll go through all that tonight. But anyway, last night I got to the point where I was going to be able to fire that motor, and I was like, man, I want to hear this thing run. Because I didn't even know if the motor was going to even fire. I knew it had compression, but I didn't put a gauge on it or nothing. I just felt it, and I was like, it feels pretty, like it's got pretty good compression. So, I'm going to teach a little bit tonight. There's only 3 things that you got to have to make an engine run. You got to have spark, you got to have fuel, and you got to have compression. So we already verified that it had compression. And then, so it didn't have spark. I knew that because I could rotate it around. I cranked on it. It had no spark. So I was like, okay, it has no spark for some reason. So it either has no power to the coils. And when I first started, I had no start circuit. So they had some wires that were hooked up wrong at the motor that sends power up to the key switch. So I figured that part out. So we got a good start circuit, and then I was cranked on it, no spark. So then I knew, okay, it's either got no power to the coil, I got bad coils. I had 2 coils, so I knew it wasn't probably going to be the coils, or the points are just missing, or they're burn up, or out of adjustment. And what I ended up finding, the points were just dirty. I opened it up, they were open and closing, but they weren't grounding. So from sitting and not being used, there got some corrosion on the contacts. So just went in there with some sandpaper and cleaned them up real good. Yeah, spark. So now we got to fix the fuel problem. Now we got to fix the fuel problem. We have fuel to it. We got it to run. It has a really high idle. It started, and I was telling these guys before everybody got here, I about blew that motor up because I thought was the throttle stop screw for the idle stop screw, and it was actually the RPM maximum. And the cable on the shaft, the bracket had loosened up, so it was moving on the shaft. And so what happened was I ended up getting the cable set up wrong, and I had it full throttle when I fired it. Man, that thing fired up and it went, wah, and I had to run up front, turn the key off. And I was like, well, that wasn't a good idea on a motor that's been sitting for who knows how long. Thank God I put some oil down in the cylinders before I fired it. Anyway, that was a lesson learned. So anyway, I got to figure out how the throttle stop works, where the idle mixture screw is. Not the mixture screw, but the idle stop screw. And then it just seemed like I did get it to idle really good low, and then it's kept wanting to go up on its own. So I think carburetor is going to have to come off and get cleaned up a little bit. Probably got a bunch of junk in them. So anyway, not big deal. And it has two Carter carburetors on it. I was surprised. They're Carters. So we're going to pull those carburetors. We're going to pull those carburetors off and soak them and put them back on. And I think we're going to be able to make this boat run just fine, just with some basic automotive troubleshooting. So that's what I'm trying to teach people. You know, new people coming in, you learn these skills, man. You can put a lot of money in your pocket, because you can go like look at a truck or something and say, oh yeah, it has no spark. Well, you go look for power at the coil. If it doesn't have no power at the coil, you know you got it, man. You already know what's wrong with it. It has no power to the coil, you know. Or if it does have power to the coil, it's not firing. Then, you know, in a point ignition, it's real simple. But on the other side, it's usually a TFI module, ignition module, or open to the PCM. So you can pick up some good deals just by understanding how spark works, you know. And we'll go through that spark, fuel, and compression, you know. Any mechanic in the whole world, when they get a car that comes in for no spark, for no start, that's what they're looking at. Does it have spark? Does it have fuel and compression? So compression, a lot of times, let's say the starter doesn't crank. Well, that's your compression. It can't get compression unless the motor cranks. So, you know, that's another thing on electrical. You can figure out starter problems. Real easy fix. You can pick up vehicles for nothing that need a starter, you know, so we can walk through that, you know, starter operation. So anyhow, tonight at 7, I'm going to go through basic ignition system, really, and I'm going to really take it to a really beginner's level. In other words, you don't even know how to get the hood open. You know, we're going to go to that point, is like, okay, this is why your car needs spark. This is how it's created. And then we're going to walk through that system step by step and show people, you know, you need to have 12 volts. And a lot of people don't realize, but point ignition, you won't see 12 volts at the coil. You shouldn't, because there's a resistor in there. Depends on my Dodge Caravan ignition. Yeah. So Tyson, the Caravan ignition ended up being a module problem. Ford, man, I made a lot of money on Ford building ignitions. Ford used to have what they call a TFI module that plugged in from the bottom, and they had a problem with them. The connector inside the distributor would just get all mushy and gooey. And back then, we used to rebuild that stuff. We pull the distributor out, tear the whole distributor down, you know, put a new pickup coil in it and the module. And, you know, we charge like 3 hours, 4 hours to rebuild the distributor. And most of the time it was, and I had an easy way to test those. What I did, I took a distributor and I built one on the bench. And then when the car would come in as a no start, I would just unplug it, plug it into this distributor I had, hook up the ground and spin it. And if it had spark, I knew the distributor was the problem. You know, I could troubleshoot it in 30 seconds and go, yeah, the distributor needs to come apart. You know, but any ignition system, the only difference between electronic ignition and point is you take out the point. So you don't have something that can wear out. The electronic ignition does the same thing. It just gets a signal differently. And then the module says, hey, I just got a signal from the module. We need to ground the coil. So it's the same thing. The only difference between solid state and points, you don't have a physical part that has to open and close. And points over time, what happens, and we'll go over that tonight, it has like a rubbing block. So each time the lobe from the distributor goes like this, it pushes on this and opens and closes the points. And what can happen is this rubbing block is made of a hard Bakelite or plastic, and over time it'll start wearing. And what that does, if you don't adjust those, eventually the points won't open. They'll just stay closed, and then the car don't start. And it affects your timing. Your dwell on your points affects your timing. I had all kinds of well, it started when I lost the key, so a guy came to the house and cut a new key in Tumbler cost rate. Took him an hour. Yeah, so those keys, and we can go through some of that eventually. It's called they have keyless entry, and then they have the new cars now. What happens is there's actually a transmitter in the key. Like when you see, I don't have mine sitting here, but when you see a key and it's big and thick and it has black on it, big black key, with plastic all around it, that usually means there's a transponder in the key. So when you put the key up like this, it sends a signal to a module that says, hey, this is the right key. Go ahead and let the guy start the car. If you cut a key that doesn't have that transponder in it, it'll turn the switch, but it won't let you crank on it because it doesn't see the signal from the key to the module. And I can teach you a neat little trick that I've taught people before. Let's say you got an old truck, and this guy had a Ranger, and he lost the key. What was the deal? Something was going on with the switch. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, that's what it was. He wanted another key for it, but he didn't want to pay. It was like $200 to have another key made. And I said, well, if you're not worried about the anti-theft, just take that key, go down and have like 2 or 3 key mades without the transponder in it, and then take that key and just cut the end of the key off and take that transponder and put it underneath the dash and just wire tie it to the harness. So it always sees that signal from the key. So when you put in the key that doesn't have the transponder in it, it'll let it start. So we were able to get him, where he could get 2 or 3 keys, give one to his wife. He wanted to give out keys to all the family, and it was going to cost like $500 to have the keys made because they have that transponder and it's expensive. So I said, hey, if you don't care about the anti-theft, I said, we can just take that key, cut it, put the transponder near the module so it sees the signal, and then the standard key will work. So that's a neat little go around on that. Then it worked for a week. Then it would stop running after you put it in drive. Then I took the Midas and they said it needed something called a Wickham. So that's probably the transponder I'm talking about. Everybody has their own names for stuff. I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they all can't call it the same thing. GM calls it one thing, Ford calls it somebody else. Why don't we just call it one thing? That we know what we're talking about. Anyway, so tonight, what else did I got to tell you guys? Oh, the Ford project, the IDI. So here's what happened with that. So I knew I had some leakers on it. I knew that when I first fired it, and I was getting a fuel leak. So what I did was I tore the whole injection system apart, took all the injection lines off, and resealed the top hats and got rid of that fuel line leak. And I'll have a video coming up. I videotaped the whole thing, and I'll drop that video, and it just goes through step by step of how to do that. And then, so when we got done, we pretty much, I've pretty much figured I got rid of my fuel leak. So I cleaned it up. Real good. I'll get right back to you, Tyson. I cleaned it up real good and put some soap and water on it and blew it off and everything, and then fired it. So I got rid of the fuel leak, and I had a transmission cooler line leak. I fixed that. So when I got done yesterday, all the leaks were gone. I pulled it out into the driveway because I didn't want it leaking out there on my driveway. I had a pan under it. And so when I got all done, I fired it up and I ran it at high speed, up to 2,500 because I wanted to see if the stat was coming open. And I ran it for a little bit, and I looked under, and there was a puddle of oil. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Now I got an oil leak. So I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, it's got to be coming from the valve cover. I said, but why is it only doing it at high speed? And I did notice when I first got the truck, the oil was way over full. So I got underneath there with the light, and I'm looking at it. I've never seen that before. The 7.3 is the only one I've ever seen that before. So the dipstick goes down through, a liner, so a metal, like regular dipstick deal. It goes down, and just as it goes to enter the pan, there's a gap. There's no enclosure. There's a gap. You can actually see the dipstick down there. I'm like, that's weird. You can see the dipstick. And I start thinking, I bet it's because it's over full on oil. Because it's over full on oil, me running at 2,500, sloshing that oil all around in the pan, and it was coming out that hole. So I got underneath there, and I was a little worried because I'm like, man, I hope this isn't fuel or water, because that could be bad, So I cracked it, and I dumped it, and it didn't feel like water or oil. It didn't smell like fuel. So I was like, just over full on oil. Somebody just dumped way too much oil in this thing. So I drained I bet I got 4 quarts of oil out of that thing before I got it down to the level it's supposed to be. And then I ran it, no more oil leak. So real simple fixes. Sometimes it's just a basic, simple thing. It doesn't always have to be complicated, and we're going to teach these things where people can save money on their own without taking their car to the mechanic all the time. You don't want to be paying a mechanic $200 an hour to change a fuse. It's something you can do on your own, or, like that oil leak. I got underneath there and looked at it, and it was just over full on oil. If you would have taken that in a shop, they would charge you an hour diagnosis time, $200. They would have said, they did this or that, another $100, $300 before you got out there. Okay, Tyson, what'd they charge you to do that? I'm guessing about $800 or $900. It's crazy what it costs to have your car worked on now. Because I'm on the other end of that. I'm the technician, that's doing the work. And I know, I try to explain that with people with batteries. There's so many little things. And that if you've never been here before, please give us your subscription. We're going to put money in your pocket. It ain't going to cost you a dime. All you got to do is show up. So one thing I've taught people is with batteries, this is a great piece of information. French cut the dipsticks on the trucks that the Germans took. They kept adding oil and the trucks broke down. Oh, I see what you're saying. That way it would give it an overflow where it flow out. I just never seen that before. I was like, what in the heck is it? I can see the dipstick. I've never seen a dipstick before down from below. Okay, I'm going to give you some information, guys, that just showed up here about batteries, man. Real quick. Don't wait till your car breaks down and have to have it towed. And then you tow it in there and they check it and tell you it needs a battery. Because what happens is, okay, you get broke down. First of all, you might miss a day's work trying to mess with the truck or car or whatever. If you don't have AAA, you pay to have it towed. It gets to the shop. Yeah, I figured that, Tyson. That's common anymore. So it costs so much. At $200 an hour, it doesn't take much. So anyway, you get your car towed to the shop. They say, hey, it needs a battery. They test it. And to test it, they're going to have to charge the battery. Then they test it. Then they check the alternator, make sure it's doing good. They call you on the phone, say, hey, it needs a battery. So that bad battery costs you now a tow bill, maybe an hour diagnosis, which is $200, a half hour to install the battery. There's another $100, $300. So let's say you paid $100 to have it towed. That's $400. The battery's almost $200. Now you're $600 into this thing because it had a bad battery. Don't wait until the battery goes bad. Every 4 to 5 years, buy a new battery. You're going to have to buy one anyway. So why wait until you have to have it towed to me and for me to tell you, hey, you got a bad battery and it costs you $600? Just about every 5 years maximum. I tell people 4 years. Batteries don't last. And we get people on here say, man, I've had a battery, it's 9 years old and it's still good. Yeah, exception to the rule. I've worked on a fleet of 2,000 vehicles. I see them all the time. I see them every 5,000 miles. And guess what? Every 4 to 5 years, you're putting a battery in them. Because if you wait any longer, they're getting pulled in on the tow truck. They come in with a dead battery. You go through the same little thing that I just said. Comes in, you check it, needs a battery, you check it, you charge for all that stuff, and the customer pays $600 or $700. to when if you just said, hey, yeah, it can be wilt. It can be. But in the industry, they don't do that. When you bring a battery into the shop, they're not going to try to rejuvenate it. They're going to sell you a $250 battery. Actually, wilt, I went through that on that charger, that Noco Genius 10. I have rejuvenated gosh, I've saved myself probably $800 since I bought that charger. And I'll put a link up on that charger on our live. Because you know what? That's probably the best $80 I ever spent, man. Yeah, battery's $200. Exactly. More than that sometimes. The battery in my Nissan was $315. But you can, and I can teach you a way to do that. Also, there's a way to do that without that charger. But I got to be careful with who I teach this to, because you have to pay attention and go check it. You can't hook it up and go get some drinks at the bar and come back. You burn your freaking garage down. There are ways you can do that, but we'll talk about that at the live tonight. Series charge. But I did that. So I needed two batteries in my motorhome. My own fault, because we'll talk about that tonight at the live. Is batteries go bad because they get sulfated, and they get sulfated because you let them go dead. As soon as you let a battery go dead, it starts to sulfate. And what that does, puts a coating on the plates. And then when you try to charge it, it won't take charge. So, by that repair mode that they have on that Genius 10, 80, it's like $100 now. They were 80. They were on sale, but they're around $100. But that $100 tool, if it brings back one battery, it paid for itself. When batteries are $200. And it failed on this one. I had a battery in that boat that I got. So I said, I'm going to try this, see if it'll bring it back. But it did what it was supposed to do. It tried to repair it, and then it went, nope, that's too bad. There's nothing we can do for you. It puts a little icon in there with a line through it that says, this battery is beyond repair. It's dangerous to try to charge. It'll overheat and boil. So it says no. But I brought back two batteries on my motorhome because they sat out there all winter dead. And I said, I'm going to try it. So I tried that repair mode on the Genius 10 battery charger, brought them both back. Yeah, it's supposed to, but this one that they had in there wasn't. And it's not for a trolling motor. It's for the start circuit on that boat. It's just for the starter. It doesn't have a trolling motor or nothing on it. And it's not deep cycle. It's just a standard battery. But I was hoping I could bring it back, but no, wouldn't do it. Moser. What is MOSR? I don't know what you're talking about. But hopefully tonight we'll get some new people in. Hey, if you guys don't mind, would you go and share the live, if you would? Share the live on your pages and on your Facebook and all that stuff, so we can get some more people. Because I don't mind teaching to one person, but it'd be nice if we can get some more people. But we're going to start doing that. We're going to start doing some teaching. I'll take some B-roll, and we'll load some of these as videos for teaching purposes. Let's see. I always try to bring up a tool because that's what keeps the lights on here, just so you guys know. And just so you know, somebody bought one of those sets of LEDs from us through our link. So I appreciate that. I don't know who it is. There's no way for me to know that. It just shows that there was a purchase made. Somebody bought a set of LEDs and a controller. So we make a little bit. Like I said, on the lights, we only make like $3 or something like that. But anyway, if you would, I'm going to share the screen with you real quick. So when it comes to automotive diagnosis, if you're doing any kind of troubleshooting, even if you're just doing your own stuff at home, I highly recommend this tool. It has saved me so much time. And when you're doing troubleshooting, a lot of times you're trying to make up leads to get into places and trying to use wires and stuff, to do the testing. And this tool is made by Power Probe. Teach people to read a tape measure. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. One time I went in for an interview for a job, and that was one of them. They wanted you to measure with a tape measure. You couldn't say, well, 3 little lines and 1 big line. You couldn't do that. So anyway, this tool I'm talking about is made by a company named Power Probe, and they make that little torch that I'm pushing all the time. I love it. But Power Probe, it's like a test light on steroids, man. It tells you if you're on the power or the ground with a red or green light. And then it gives you the ability, it has a rocker switch on it, so you can feed 12 volts or you can ground it. So it's really nice because you just hook it up to the battery and it'll go all the way to the back of the car. I'm going to bring it up on screen so you guys can just see this real quick. Share screen, share screen. What do I want to share? I want to share Power Probe. Okay, I'm just going to share this with you briefly. So this is what it looks like. And it has a probe that goes on the end right here. And this kit comes with the power probe, the harness, the black case. That's what it looks like. And you see it has a little beeper on it. So you can do diagnosis with the beeper. We can go through all that. But this is what it looks like. It tells you voltage right on it. It tells you indication. It has a circuit breaker so you can put power to a circuit, and if it's shorted to ground, it'll pop that little circuit breaker so you know you have a problem. It's a diagnostic tool. And like this guy's doing right here, you can just power up a fan. You hook the ground up, you push that button, and it powers up the fan. So this kit's $160. I'm going to come back to you guys, get rid of that, and get this off the screen now. So this kit's like $160, but man, it's a game changer if you're doing any kind of electrical work. Really good tool. I have one at work. I keep one in my toolbox and one in the tool room. I need to buy one for home. But you can buy just the probe with the harness for like I think $130. It's a good way to spend some money, man, really. So anyway, if you guys buy one of those, we get a commission. Every time I do one of these lives, I try to think of a tool that has good potential to put money in your pocket. And this, or save you time, frustration. When you're at home, I know you guys have done this, you're stripping down wires, and you're trying to make something to get in the little hole. And, you know, that probe is nice because it shows you voltage. It tells you if you're on the power or on the ground. And you can apply a power or you can apply a ground. That is such a game changer when you're trying to do troubleshooting. You can just go into a circuit, like a fuse panel, boom, boom, boom. It tells you the voltage right down the line. And then, like, you know, if you want to put power to that, you can just push the button and power it up. If the unit comes on, you know, the issue, you know, was right there at the fuse. So anyway, that's a good tool. The description's in the link anyway. So tonight, 7 o'clock, man, we're going to do that. And I just thought I'd pop in here today and kind of apologize for you guys that I didn't make it yesterday. I just got busy on that boat. And it's supposed to rain here tomorrow, I think, or the next day. And I got all kinds of crap out there that's not covered up. So because I was out there working on the boat and stuff yesterday, I left a bunch of my tools out. But anyway, if you guys... I hope I get to see you guys tonight at 7. We'll do some training. And like I said, please like and share the live if you would. That way, I'll actually go right now and schedule it. So there's a link there. And at 7 tonight, we're going to do the live. And I'm just going to do a whiteboard up on the wall. And I'm going to walk everybody through the process of the theory and operation of basic ignitions. And we'll start with point ignition. And really the only difference between point ignition and electronics is you take the points out and you give that job to a module. But the module still has to have the same things. It has to have a power, and it has to have a way to ground the circuit to make the coil come on and off. Even on your coil over plug systems, that's how they work. They send power to one side of the coil, and the computer controls the ground, and it tells it when to spark, So we'll go through all that tonight at the live, and I'm going to sign off for now. I appreciate you guys dropping in. How much time do we have on here? I don't even know. 40 minutes. I was going to devote an hour, but I just want to check in with everybody and let everyone know. Monday nights, we're going to do Motorcycle Madness. Tuesday, we're going to teach. And on Fridays, we're going to keep doing the tool giveaway with the did you guys notice the new merch, man? Do you like the black or the white? I like the black better for me. We're working on getting some merch together. These are not screen printed. We just got these made. I think the letters are a little big personally, but anyway, we're working on getting the Shopify thing figured out and get it loaded so we can offer you guys hats and stuff, because we've had people ask about the hats. But anyway, I'm going to bell for now. Thanks for showing up at the live. I'll see you guys tonight at 7, and we'll do some teaching. So if you know anybody that's thinking of, that they're basic, and we're going to start from the basics, real easy, real simple. Like, this is a battery, positive, negative, this is what a coil looks like. Hopefully I can pull up some stuff on the screen with good pictures, but I'm not a great artist, but I'm going to draw the circuitry out on the board so you guys can kind of understand it's pretty basic. It's real simple. We're going to keep it really, really simple. So, I'm going to try to teach it, like I'm teaching a high schooler how to do this. So anyway, we'll do that tonight. I appreciate you guys being here. Like and share if you would. And if you're looking for a good tool to add to your toolbox, go look at that Power Probe. I wouldn't recommend anything here that I wouldn't read by myself. That's a great tool. It really is. All right, man. I'm out of here. Later. See you guys tonight.